The Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to Kansas City to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored by 6 points. It's a 4:25 p.m. kickoff. The over-under for this matchup is 47.5 points. And Joe Burrow is 3-1 in his career versus Patrick Mahomes. And Joe Burrow had a quote, this was earlier this offseason, on the Kansas City Chiefs. He said, quote, "We are kind of built to beat them." That was his quote on the Chiefs. So, as I dive into this matchup, let's start off with the Cincinnati Bengals. And I believe that it's time for us to have an uncomfortable conversation about the Cincinnati Bengals and their head coach, Zach Taylor, and have a conversation as to why they struggle in the early part of the season. Zach Taylor is 1-5 in season openers, and Joe Burrow is 1-8 in weeks 1 and 2 in his career. 1-8. And let's go over some of these statistics that back up the point about how the Bengals, for whatever reason, get out to these slow starts, shall we? Let's compare Joe Burrow's weeks 1 and 2 versus his weeks 3 through 18. Weeks 1 and 2, Joe Burrow, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Weeks 3 through 18, 85 touchdowns, 28 interceptions. Joe Burrow, weeks 1 through 2, he averages 220 passing yards per game. Weeks 3 through 18, he averages 279 passing yards per game. Passer rating, weeks 1 and 2, his passer rating is 79.6. Weeks 3 through 18, it's 102.5. He completes 63% of his passes weeks 1 and 2. Weeks 3 through 18, he completes 69% of his passes, and he's 1-8 again in weeks 1 and 2. Weeks 3 through 18, 28, 15, and 1. So, what that tells me is, for whatever reason, Zach Taylor doesn't have his team prepared to start the season. And they need to evaluate how they do preseason. They need to either play Joe Burrow and the starters more in the preseason, because what happened Sunday afternoon here in Cincinnati at Paycor Stadium was unacceptable. They got beat by one of the worst teams in the NFL. The New England Patriots are a rebuilding football team. And they went out there and they beat a quote-unquote Super Bowl contender in the Cincinnati Bengals. And honestly, if we're being honest, the New England Patriots manhandled the Cincinnati Bengals Sunday at Paycor Stadium. Let's call it like it is. But before I get into the defensive struggles for the Bengals, I want to just say again, Zach Taylor needs to do a better job as a head coach having the Cincinnati Bengals prepared once the season starts. They have to play more in the preseason, get more reps, because for whatever reason, they come out struggling weeks 1 and 2, and they're in catch-up mode the rest of the season. And they have a big week 3 coming up at home. It happened last year. I think the Bengals got out to a slow start last year. They lost weeks 1 and 2, and then I think they played the Rams week 3 here at Paycor. So they have to do a better job at getting out to better starts. You're in the AFC North. That's the hardest division in the NFL. It's the toughest division to win in. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore Ravens, and the Cleveland Browns. It's a physical division. Not only that, you're in the AFC with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa with the Dolphins and their elite offense. You can't afford to get off to slow starts and think that you're going to be able to rebound as the season goes along. You can't continue to get off these slow starts. But let's talk about the biggest reason why the Bengals lost Sunday afternoon at Paycor Stadium to the Patriots. The biggest reason why the Bengals lost Sunday to the Patriots wasn't because of their offense. Although their offense did struggle to get into a rhythm, that wasn't the biggest reason why the Bengals lost. The biggest reason why the Bengals lost Sunday to the Patriots was because of their inability to stop the run. The Cincinnati Bengals defense, they gave up 170 rushing yards to the Patriots. Ramondre Stevenson, he looked like a top 5 running back in the NFL. I think he's top 10, but he looked like a top 5 running back in the NFL Sunday against this Cincinnati Bengals defense. He had 25 carries, 120 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. That was Stevenson's first game with 100 yards rushing since 2022. So Stevenson was the player of the game, and it was because of that Bengals defensive front. So defensive coordinator Lou Admiral and that Bengals front 7, Sam Hubbard, Trey Hendrickson, Sheldon Rankins, okay, at linebacker, Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, they got manhandled by the Patriots offensive line. Manhandled. And the Bengals have to figure out, as a defense, how do we stop the run? Because they got physically dominated in week 1 by the Patriots. We know Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Zach Taylor, they're going to figure it out offensively. But the biggest question for this Bengals football team right now is, can their defense stop the run? And that's going to be key, because the Chiefs, they have Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield. And Pacheco, he runs hard. I wouldn't say Pacheco is an elite running back, but he's very good. He runs hard in between the tackles. And if the Bengals can't stop the run Sunday afternoon in Kansas City, I can guarantee you Andy Reid will run the football right down the Bengals' throats. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. They got to stop the run, okay? That's going to be their first recipe for success, being able to stop the run as a defense. Now, as an offense, and I talked about this in the offseason, talking to family and friends who are fans of the Bengals. The Bengals, they lost Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd. And now, to me, as an offense, they don't have as much firepower compared to what they had in previous years. In previous years, you had Joe Mixon in the backfield. You had Tyler Boyd at receiver. You had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins as well. So, from a scheme standpoint, because you have elite personnel, you don't really have to scheme guys open, because you got Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, you got Joe Mixon in the backfield. All these players are dynamic football players. So honestly, from a scheme perspective, you really don't have to scheme them open. They can get open on their own as individual players. But now, because you no longer have Joe Mixon or Tyler Boyd in the backfield, to me now, offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher and head coach Zach Taylor, they're going to have to scheme open their weapons for Joe Burrow to throw the football to. Because the only player right now, or players, I'll say, to me, that can get open on their own is Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And T. Higgins, he didn't practice today, so he was out of practice today with that hamstring injury. We don't even know if he's going to play, but the Bengals, they have to put together a better scheme so they can get these guys open. I thought in the game against the Patriots, they didn't have any deep routes. They had a lot of underneath stuff, and it was short routes, like short comeback routes and stuff like that. You have to throw the football down the field if you're going to be an effective offense. So I want to see if Zach Taylor and Dan Pitcher can create more opportunities and create a scheme for these new weapons in this Bengals offense to get open. You can't just depend on the talent anymore. The Bengals have so much talent with Chase Higgins, Boyd, Mixon, they don't have that talent anymore. And that margin for error that they had in previous years with those elite weapons, they no longer have that margin for error moving forward. They don't have it anymore. Like Zach Moss, he's a downgrade from Joe Mixon. Let's be real about it. He had a decent game against the Patriots, but he's a downgrade. Joe Mixon is still a better running back than Zach Moss is. Chase Brown has a lot of promise as the backup running back. And at receiver, outside of Chase and Higgins, no other Bengals receiver is proven. Yosevich had like a few receptions, but he didn't do much. They still playing Trenton Irwin over Jermaine Burton, and I think Jermaine Burton should get more playing time. Let's see what this kid's got. Let's see what he's got. I think Zach Taylor is giving Trenton Irwin more playing time over Jermaine Burton because Irwin earned his way onto this Bengals football team. He was, I believe, a previous practice squad member. So he's going with the vet over Burton, but Burton may be better than Irwin. We'll find out. But I thought in that game against the Patriots, there were two key plays that really derailed the Bengals. The Mike Gesicki potential touchdown reception. He dropped the pass. He got to the end zone. He didn't complete the catch is what happened. He caught the football, going to the back of the end zone, didn't complete the catch. That was a key play in that game. And then the other tight end, Tanner Hudson, he catches the football from Joe Burrow about to go across the goal line, and the Patriots push the football out, and the Patriots get the football. Huge plays that swung momentum in that football game against the Patriots. Huge plays. So, offensively, Zach Taylor and company has to do a better job at creating a scheme for the Bengals receivers to get open. Can't rely on talent anymore. Not just rely on talent. So they have to do a better job on that. And defensively, they have to stop the run. Now, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs are led by Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. In Week 1, Patrick Mahomes, he went 20 of 28. He threw for 291 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He completed 71% of his passes. And Rashee Rice, 7 receptions, 103 receiving yards. Xavier Worthy, the rookie, 2 receptions, 47 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. And as I look at the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously you want to have a nice rushing attack with Pacheco in the backfield, okay? And at some point, they're going to get P-Ryan in the mix in this offense as well. He's the former Bengal. So you got Pacheco and P-Ryan in the backfield. But we all know this Chiefs football team, their strength is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, last year, 27 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, 4,183 passing yards. He completed 67% of his passes last year. And I'm sitting there watching the game Thursday night against the Ravens, and I'm thinking to myself, damn, they were already elite with Pacheco, with Travis Kelce, with Rashee Rice, and Hollywood Brown, who's injured right now, but he's going to be back. They were already elite with those guys. But they bring in Xavier Worthy, and this kid has tremendous speed. And honestly, he could take the top off of defense. And so now I'm thinking, damn, you get Patrick Mahomes another elite weapon in that Chiefs offense, and you got Andy Reid calling plays. You don't think Andy Reid is going to get creative with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice in this Chiefs offense? It takes the Chiefs to another level offensively. It takes them to another level. So it's going to be interesting to see as this season progresses, because we know the Chiefs, they use the regular season as a building block for the playoffs. I remember last year, the Chiefs offense, they were inconsistent all regular season long. We get to the playoffs, and all of a sudden, they flipped the switch, and their offense was playing at an elite level. Now, they weren't elite in the playoffs like they were in previous years, but they still were very, very good in the playoffs. And they know how to flip that switch. So in this game against the Bengals, I expect Andy Reid to run the football with Isaiah Pacheco, despite having Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice as your receivers in this offense. I also expect Travis Kelce to have a better performance in week 2 than he did in week 1. I was looking for Travis Kelce in week 1. In week 1 against the Ravens, Travis Kelce, 3 receptions for 34 receiving yards. We know Travis Kelce is the greatest tight end in NFL history, so I expect the Chiefs to get him more involved in the offense. But that's another thing about the Chiefs. Because Patrick Mahomes can carry you as an offense, you don't necessarily need Travis Kelce to be elite in the regular season anymore. You got Isaiah Pacheco in the backfield. You got Xavier Worthy now, Rashee Rice, okay? You got Hollywood Brown, who's going to come back at some point. You don't need Travis Kelce to be elite in the regular season. You need Travis Kelce to be elite in the playoffs. And that's exactly what happened last year during the Chiefs' playoff run. In the AFC Championship game, Travis Kelce had over 100 yards receiving. He scored the opening touchdown for the Chiefs on the back shoulder throw from Mahomes. So I do expect Kelce to have a better game in week 2 than he did in week 1, but you don't really need Kelce to be great in the regular season for the Chiefs. You can kind of hold him back a little bit and unleash him come playoff time. But defensively for the Chiefs, they're led by defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo. They gave up 452 yards against the Ravens in week 1. They gave up 185 rushing yards, 267 passing yards. If Lamar Jackson was a better pocket passer, they probably would have gave up more passing yards than that. Because on that last Ravens possession, at the end of the game, I counted 2 plays where the Ravens had open receivers on that last possession. And you gave up 185 rushing yards to the Ravens. We know the Ravens have an elite rushing attack with Lamar Jackson, but that Chiefs defense, they always do well when it matters the most. So even though they gave up over 450 total yards of offense to the Ravens, for whatever reason, in the playoffs, the Chiefs defense, they get stingy and they get stops when they need to. I thought last year in the AFC Championship game against the Ravens, I thought that Chiefs defense with Steve Spagnuolo won them the game more so than Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes' offense. Steve Spagnuolo's defense, they were elite last year in that AFC Championship game. I don't even think the Chiefs scored in the second half of the AFC Championship game. And they were able to win because of their defense. They make plays when they need to. But I did see some holes in that Chiefs defense against the Ravens in week 1, but I think they'll fix that up as the year goes along. So, with that being said, I think this game will be competitive. And again, also, one more thing. We all know Patrick Mahomes, he knows his record against Joe Burrow. He's a competitor. He knows he's 1-3 career all-time against Joe Burrow. So we know Patrick Mahomes wants to beat Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. So because of the Bengals' struggles in week 1 and their inability to stop the run, I'm rolling with the Kansas City Chiefs to beat the Bengals in Arrowhead in week 2. I'm going Patrick Mahomes, 28, Joe Burrow, 17.